This bird needs no introduction. One or other of its 10 million relatives is found at almost every bird table in Britain, in city, country or suburb. It is, of course, the blue tit. Blue tits respond so readily to human hospitality that it's tempting to feel that we're experts in a small way on our particular family. But this is the story of what they get up to when we're not looking out of the window. In fact, are we right to think of our blue tits at all? At the moment, there's one cheeky robin, a greenfinch, and the usual gang of noisy starlings. And just one blue tit. Yet marking individual birds has shown that no less than 100 different blue tits could well be visiting this bird table in the course of a single morning, and commuting 2 or 3 miles to get here from the countryside around. In winter, blue tits must forage almost every minute of the day simply to stay alive. As snow turns into snowdrops, the early risers of the animal world start their year. In the south of England, frogs are already spawning by the end of February. Cats are well known for their curiosity. And blue tits too. They're always on the lookout for food in unusual places. Agile, lightweight, skilled with both foot and bill, blue tits are adapted to foraging on the slender outer twigs of trees. It enables them to reach the foods that other birds can't reach. Some blue tits are already paired and have started house hunting. The male shows his mate several sites, but the final choice is hers. Whether she chooses a nest box or a natural hole, the female carries out her own structural survey. But it's a bit early yet to start on the nest. April comes, and the nest building starts in earnest. Working on her own, the female collects load after load of moss to form the foundation. At first, she simply piles it on the floor of the box. The male just keeps an eye on things. By shuffling and pressing the moss with her breast, the female forms the nest cup. When the male looks in, his presence seems far from welcome. To help her reach breeding condition, the female needs a diet rich in protein. The nectar of pussy willows is ideal for this, and she can pick up a few insects at the same time. When the female is ready to mate, she indicates it by quivering her wings. The same signal is also used to beg for food. During egg formation, the female needs 40% more food than usual. She can find enough food for herself, but for the extra nourishment needed to make the eggs, she relies on her mate. The male also helps his mate in another important way. And though blue tits are such familiar birds, this has seldom been seen before. He brings her tiny snails. To form the shells of her dozen eggs, the female needs almost as much calcium as her whole skeleton contains. So she turns snail shells into eggshells. Time now to put the finishing touches to the nest. There's no shortage of the very best quality lining materials. Dawn on a sparkling April day, but the female remains in the nest. The start of egg-laying must be near. The male's foraging is now almost frenzied. He must keep up his own strength to defend the territory as well as feeding his mate. At each visit, the male only brings a single caterpillar. But he comes so frequently that the female is receiving up to 2.5 times as much food as she normally collects on her own. The female is showing signs of discomfort. It looks as if the first egg is on its way. And there it is, a tiny egg, but a great achievement for a bird that weighs scarcely more than a £1 coin. From now on, the female will add 1 egg to her clutch each morning and go to roost each night with the next day's egg ready formed inside her. And the final score turns out to be 10. Now she needs to be on the lookout, especially against weasels. In some areas, weasels destroy up to 2/3 of broods at this stage. False alarm this time. It's only a field mouse.
Put him back in water. I'm trying to get a snail. I've got the snail now.
Woodpeckers too often take young from nest boxes, but this one's occupied with its own brood in the dead elm tree. But high in her nest in the bluebell wood is the real villain of the piece, as far as the blue tits are concerned, the sparrowhawk. She and her brood may well pose the greatest threat of all to the blue tits. Meanwhile, back in the nest box, great excitement. The first egg has hatched. At hatching, the chick is blind and naked. It's also unable to regulate its own temperature, so its mother maneuvers it into a position where it can be warmly brooded. Eight out of the 10 eggs have now hatched. Small chicks that die are swiftly removed by the adults. Eggs that fail to hatch get pushed into the nest lining. The mother isn't just tidying up. Producing 10 eggshells has drawn calcium from her own skeleton. Eating the shells helps to restore it. And here comes father with a spider. That isn't just an accident. The parents carefully select the type of food the young need at different stages of their development. Between days 5 and 8, they need lots of spiders. This happens in Britain, on the continent, and in Japan. But as yet, we don't know why. Over in the oak wood, the sparrowhawk is on eggs. Her mate, too, brings food to the nest. She turns the eggs to assist incubation. Her brood is carefully timed to synchronize with that of the blue tits. Her chicks will be at their hungriest when the young blue tits make their first wobbly flight from the nest and are likely to prove easy prey. The chicks' eyes have opened. Instead of just leaping up for food, they now beg towards their mother, and the food keeps on coming. By the time they leave the nest, they'll have got through something like 10,000 caterpillars. As the nestlings grow, others in the garden become aware of them. Although they're found in so many habitats, blue tits are basically birds of oak woods, and it's their favourite feeding place. No wonder when one of these big oaks can carry up to 500,000 caterpillars. Indeed, the blue tit breeding season is timed for peak caterpillar time, just as the sparrowhawk's breeding season in turn is linked with the blue tits. The young blue tits are now 2 weeks old. 7 of them have survived. They're fully feathered and almost miniature versions of their parents, with paler plumage and wide yellow gapes. The sparrowhawk's eggs have also hatched. The chicks are now a week old. Their mother feeds them very carefully, tearing the meat and offering a small piece to each in turn. The mother cleans her talons, her weapons. A hawk kills with its talons and only uses its beak as its knife and fork, so to speak, to tear the food. At the elm tree nest, the male woodpecker, with the red patch on his head, flies in to feed his brood. And now the female without a red patch. The starling's first brood is almost independent. Perhaps it's looking for another nest site, but this one's already occupied. The blue tits are almost 3 weeks old enough to leave the nest. Their parents try to tempt them out.
Mum, behind us.
The whole brood is safely out of the box. Mother flies in with one final meal. Oh well, it seems a pity to waste it. The height of summer, but the blue tits can't afford to relax. A close shave. But the ultimate enemy lurks among the leaves. The female sparrowhawk is still spending most of her time near the nest, so the growing family has to be provisioned by the male, who's only 2/3 her size. He specializes in the smaller woodland birds, particularly tits. The male plucks the blue tit before taking it to the nest. It's hard not to be saddened by the death of even one of these small birds. But some deaths are inevitable. Each year, on average, one of each adult pair survives. So out of a clutch of 10 eggs, like ours, only one needs to get through to replace its parent. Meanwhile, the sparrowhawks too have their chicks to feed. Already the female on the right is noticeably larger than her brothers. Autumn is a quiet time for many woodland birds. It's a time when young and adult tits alike molt into a fresh set of feathers ready for winter. This year, though not every year, a feast is spread for them. Beech trees only produce seed every few years, but when they do, it's a rich harvest. At this time, blue tits change their diet from insects to seeds and spend long, busy days feeding up on beech mast. They should start the winter well fed and healthy. Winter nights are cold, but already the year has turned, and now the female blue tit will often return to the old nest box to roost, maintaining her claim to it as the nursery for her next brood in the garden.